we need to talk some about Saturday night in Starkville. And we had a message earlier that said, can we please talk about a coaching search in uniforms? And, I suppose we might not talk about the game a little bit also. Yeah. I shared with you guys a funny moment. So my flight Saturday night out of DFW, had a little bit of time. So Taylor McHarg, who I work with on the TV broadcast, we were sitting at what's the Mexican restaurant in Papacitos, I think.
Papacitos, yeah, I've been there.
So we're sitting at the bar there and, munching on some fajitas, and there are a couple of TVs in there, and I've got my phone up as well. And so I've got the LSU-Alabama game on my phone. And I looked at my watch. I was like, the State-Kentucky game started. And so I immediately stopped it and flipped over to that one. And he just looked at me. He goes, you might be the only person in America who just turned off the LSU-Alabama game to flip over and watch the Mississippi State-Kentucky game. I was like, yeah, I kind of need to watch it, though. It's bad.
Yes. All right. I think you just summed it up. To be honest with you, what else do I need to say?
The crowd looked okay, at least what I could see on television. I don't know what the upper decks.
It was a better crowd at the start of the game than I would have thought it was going to be, and they were into it early. I think the pregame had something to do with that, obviously, with bringing the '98 team out and seeing Jackie Sherrill and all those guys. People were into that, and the first series, the state gets the ball, and then the crowd's hyped. And then Mississippi State started playing football, and that took the crowd out of the game. And from that point, from the opening kickoff to the end of the game, it was just there was no roller coaster. It was just straight downhill. State couldn't do anything offensively, and that's where it went.
I was thinking about the way the season has evolved, and when things weren't going particularly well for Will Rogers, you had this chorus of, play Mike Wright, play Mike Wright. And then you get into Mike Wright a little bit, and you're like, man, I wish Will Rogers wasn't hurt. And then I thought Saturday night was the loudest during the game of, you got to get Chris Parson in the game. And finally they did. Zach Arnett had been asked about that earlier in the week. And I thought Parson was okay for what he was asked to do in the situation that he was. I don't know. I almost feel like it's just like, okay, just give me something different. Like, I don't even care what it is. Just give me something different other than what I'm watching. And then I'm not going to like that either, and I'll ask for something different again. Chris Parson had not played any college football before. He went 6 of 14 for 67 yards. He was sacked 3 times. Took a delay of game before the first snap that he took. I thought he looked poised enough, but I didn't see any difference at quarterback.
I thought you saw, a glimpse would be the word. Like, there was a glimpse of, okay, this kid clearly, he's got some mobility, but he's also got a much better arm and much better vision than does Mike Wright. But that's all it was a fainting glimpse. I mean, you're talking about a game where you're down 3 touchdowns. The team's playing prevent for the most part. I think State fans they want something to latch onto. And the fact that he was better than Wright tells you something. And so, if you're a State fan, you're sitting there thinking, there's 3 games left. And why not, build for the future? Why not just go ahead and put him out there and let him take some lumps this year and go?
No future.
Oh, you're talking about Arnett?
Yeah, that's
okay,
why.
That's State fans. I'm like,
that's why.
No, don't play football next year, Borky. It'll be okay.
That's why.
You're overreacted, Borky. That's the thing. It's like leaving the next guy who's going to live in your house a housewarming gift. Is all that is. You're not doing it for yourself. You're trying to do something nice for the next guy. If you listen to his press conference today, Zach Arnett talked about Will Rogers, said he's been practicing this whole time, and as soon as Will Rogers can play, he's the starting quarterback. And I got the impression that they're gonna evaluate him all week, and I know that word's been sort of used and turned into a joke at this point, but I really do think that if they can make a determination on Friday that he can go, he's going to go. And I think Will Rogers will start for Mississippi State there. That's not what I would do, but that's what I think Zach Arnett is going to do.
I was convinced that at this point Mississippi State was going to sit Will Rogers and Woody Marks until the Egg Bowl and then try to have some triumphant return to come and be hailed as conquering heroes.
Rogers said that on the broadcast. He said that even if his arm fell off, he was going to play in the Egg Bowl. But we'll see how that goes.
Josh and Laurel, hey Dad, have you noticed that State does not have an interception from a cornerback all season?
Oh, I have noticed that many times. State only has of their interceptions. I think State only has 6 on the year. 4 are from linebackers, and 2 are from Sean Preston.
Wow.
And how many of those happened in the Arizona game?
4 of them.
They have 6 interceptions all season long, and 4 of them were in one game.
I believe I'm correct on that. Yes.
And that quarterback for Arizona is no longer starting.
He's no longer the quarterback
for Arizona.
Yeah, somehow State has the best non-conference win of any SEC team. It's amazing.
Hold on a second. K-Dog and Wiggins. Sports Talk said put Mike Wright in, but now y'all won't acknowledge it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I said you got to give him a shot.
Yeah. I don't know that we're not acknowledging it. I don't care who State plays at quarterback, to be perfectly honest with you, K-Dog. I mean, I'll just be 100% candid, completely ripping the veil off. There is part of me that is amused by what Mississippi State is going through, right? The fact that I went to Ole Miss, fair. I'm an Ole Miss fan, there is a level of misery that is amusing from the outside. But you know what the other part of me is? A radio host on a statewide sports talk show in Mississippi that will tell you, the fact that they are so bad stinks, and it's bad for business. It's not fun to talk about them at all. So play better, State. There's some debate about who has the best non-conference win in the SEC this year. One of the two of you said it was Mississippi State's win over Arizona. A lot of people have pushed back on that and said that the Tulane win on the road was a better win.
Well, by ranking, it is. But
Missouri's win over Kansas State would also be in the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are the 3, though.
The quarterback thing, though, back on that. I mean,
this win over Georgia Tech's looking better and better, too.
It is. They're about to go to a bowl game, it seems. But, I mean, Mike Wright nor Chris Parson can do what Rogers did in Columbia, even though they lost the game. But we've learned now that's a pretty pathetic South Carolina defense. I mean, really, really bad. Frankly, they should have. I know should have, could have, would have, but they should have lost on Saturday. Jacksonville State was driving down just a few points late in the fourth quarter in Stone Blanton, Mississippi. Intercepted a pass and took it back for a touchdown, 88 yards or something like that. And to State fans' credit, I haven't seen a single State fan justify how bad they look because starting quarterback's out. Because it didn't look like it was worth the crap with starting quarterback available. It has looked undisciplined, and that was a big part Saturday night as well, how undisciplined they looked. Talk about A&M's lack of discipline and body language. The SEC received a video today of a State player with some extracurricular activities that Mark Stoops talked about today. There was a level of chippiness that was not regular football stuff. And I know what Zach Arnett said at the quarter interview where it's just 2 teams that respect each other and that's all it is. No, man, your team was undisciplined. The sheer volume of pushing and shoving and extra hits and all the crap talking when you're a bad team getting beat badly is an indicator of that. And that's been a year-long thing. disorganization, discombobulation, bad messaging from the top, and now you're getting into lack of discipline.
Hey, what do you say at this point?
I mean, if I'm being totally and truthfully honest here, I say that you're going to play 3 more football games, and then you're going to have to make a massive decision. And nothing that I've seen since week 1 has made me think that they won't make a change at the top when this is all said and done. I don't see how you can go forward like this. You saw today Mississippi State with a big decommitment from its 2024 signing class, the Starkville receiver, Stonka Burnside. I mean, you can't go down that road again with a Starkville kid maybe ending up at Ole Miss and becoming a star. So, I mean, you're recruiting. That's the other thing. It's, with Napier, right? It's like, well, they're not playing well right now, but look at this top 5 recruiting class he's bringing in. You don't have that at State. You have the worst recruiting class in the conference. So, there's nothing to sell. There's no future to sell. There's no present to sell. It just feels like a formality to me at this point, an inevitable conclusion.
And the best players on State's team are done after this season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Watson and Johnson gone. Will Rogers. I think Will Rogers has another year, but he will not spend it at Mississippi State. The guys who could come back are Tulu Griffin and Xavion Thomas in terms of who you'd want back. I mean, I assume the Bulldog Initiative will have their work cut out for them, trying to keep them on board. But beyond that, yeah, it's going to be a lot of new faces. I think it'll be similar to what Ole Miss has done in the portal in terms of numbers. You hope that you can have the same success, but in terms of getting 20-plus transfers coming in.
It's going to have to be that way. I mean, in that kind of
you don't have a choice.
Because people have asked on the text line, what does Zach Selman do? Well, I mean, that's something that we'll discuss over the next few weeks, obviously. But this new era of college football paired with what's coming to the SEC, right? Texas and Oklahoma are joining the league next year. I mean, they are coming. So that's 2 more teams in your league that already just inherently have more resources and advantages that you are. Just add 2 more to the list of an uphill battle when you've got Alabama and LSU and A&M and Georgia already in this conference. So it's really easy to quickly get buried, right? It's very easy to, as a fan, to not give money to the collective. A new thing, like a new coach 5 years ago didn't have to worry about how much money we have on hand to build a roster. So you could get buried quickly. That makes decisions more prominent faster. Also, on the flip side, you can turn over a roster faster. You can sign 20 high school kids and 20 portal kids if you need to help influx the talent faster. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You can really get left behind much faster in years past. And you can also climb out of that hole much faster than in years past if you're set up well and you hire the right person.
Hey, and you responded to the person who said we can't spend like Ole Miss in terms of NIL.
Yeah. I mean, either he didn't listen on Friday when I had Charlie Winfield on talking about NIL, or this is the point he wants to regurgitate. I'll let him tell me which one it is. But again, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to repeat what Charlie said on Friday. State is in a fine position from an NIL perspective. They will be competitive in the transfer portal with the teams that they should be competitive with.
And obviously nobody's putting actual dollar amounts out there in terms of what they've got available or whatever.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't be real good for that wouldn't be great strategy.
Correct. Yeah.
Did Charlie talk about the strategy changing this year? Because a year ago, Mississippi State, and I think they've been pretty open about this, the majority of what they did in terms of NIL stuff was in terms of player retention. As opposed
this year,
to
I
transfer portal guys or high school guys.
Yeah, I asked him about that. And, obviously he didn't go too deep into the strategy there, but he made it pretty clear that, he knows that whoever the next coaching staff is going to have to hit the transfer portal hard. They're going to have to change the way they looked at things from a season ago, and that Mississippi State is prepared to do that.
C-Spire text line. Can we not get all the former MSU guys making this NFL money ponying up?
Just takes one, but probably not.
I keep going back to this. It's a different topic. Have you noticed how easy it is to spend other people's money? Oh, well, why can't he's got millions of dollars. Why not just have him throw a bunch of his money at... People either have enough money and choose to invest in the program that they love and they support, or they don't. But the idea that they just ask them, they'll give you $3 million, $1 million, $250,000. That's hard to do. Fundraising is hard. You got to have two different things in major fundraising. You got to have volume, and then you got to have big donations. Right? You have to have people who have the means and the willingness to write big checks. And then you also need volume where lots of people are writing smaller checks. It's hard. And this is not Ole Miss specific, Mississippi State specific, Southern Miss specific. This is college athletics specific. Generally speaking, and there have been studies on this, former athletes don't give back a lot to the places where they went to school. Are there exceptions? Absolutely. Exceptions at Ole Miss and State and Southern Miss, lots of them. But in terms of the percentage of athletes who have gone through your program and have gone on to be successful compared to the number of former athletes who actually give money back to the program where they played in college, it is a very, very small percentage.
This is a great text here, too. Do you realize when you have that type of wealth, how many times these guys get asked for money? How many people ask them for money daily? And like Fletcher Cox is, not to say that he's hurting, because of course he's not, but his $100 million contract, how much do you think he took home from that $100 million contract before he paid a single bill or his agent or anything? Just how much money from his $100 million contract do you think actually hit his bank account?
Half.
So that $100 million turns into $50 million. Then you got to pay his agent. Probably got to pay a marketing person. Also, he's got to pay for stuff.
No, I was taking all of those things. Well, at best, he's taking home half of it.
And it's a lot of money. He's got a lot of money, but it's not. He doesn't have $100 million.
Parkville on Saturday night. Ohio State's defense was okay for the most part. Kentucky had a total of 110 yards on the ground. They held Ray Davis to 80 yards with no touchdowns. Devin Leary threw for 156. Kentucky had less than 300 yards of total offense.
Well, don't forget, State had the ball in one possession for 12 minutes to get 3 points.
12 minutes, 20 plays, 88 yards, 3 points. That's your season summed up right there.
I didn't want to say that because I felt like it would feel like piling on, and it wasn't my intention to do so. But 20 plays, 88 yards, 12 minutes and 29 seconds. Drive stalls out at the 7, and you kick a field goal. That's kind of like it in a nutshell, right?
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Did you think that he might shank the field goal when he lined up?
Yes.
I know you
100%.
too well.
I was just sitting there. I was like, he's going to shank this. And it went through. I was like, all right, well, see where it takes us. And that's all it took.
That would have been poetry, and not all poetry is romantic. But that's what that would have been.
Just thinking about romantic poetry.
I'm a big fan of romantic poetry. But we've gotten a couple messages like, you guys are being too negative. You guys are being too. But the the reality of the situation is, I don't think it was bias that led to fans having an expectation that the team would be better than this. Now, anybody predicting that this team would have won 9 games, that was wearing very thick colored glasses. That was a little much asking of Arnett. But when you know. I had a Southern Miss fan tweet me and say, well, it's not Ellis Johnson. Why are they thinking about making a change? And my response to him would be, this roster should have been better than they are. What is Mississippi State's offensive identity? What is their offense? What is it? What is it?
I hope you're not asking me because I don't know the answer to that question.
It's a rhetorical question. What is it?
Yeah.
And I think that the timing is important, and I think the thousands upon thousands of empty seats in a home game against an SEC team on a beautiful night, all that kind of stuff, as an administrator, you just simply cannot ignore. Because it's more than just wins and losses on a football field, right? Mississippi State University, and the same thing applies to Ole Miss and Alabama, they need people to show up 7 weeks a year. This year, 8. It's more than just, they can still go to a bowl game this year. The product is ugly, and it's also not being supported. That's a factor here. If you're Zach Selman, you look up in the stands, that tells you just as much as the ugly product on the field. I think it does anyway.
So the uniforms look great.
They did.
I'm being serious. Like it was really a good look. Yeah. Are they going to stick with it?
I don't know. I don't think that's the plan, but I think there might be enough of an outcry to change the plan.
Well, but hold on a second now. Are you in danger, hey Dad, of being the boy who cried wolf? Because you were state script. That should be the mark of this university. And then they were like, you're like, this is it.
When I was presented with new information, like they had the state script, it was like, looks great, fantastic. And they're like, by the way, we're going to put the interlocking back out there.
Of the charge of this needs to be the
because I didn't know this was an option. I didn't know this was going to be an option for me.
You thought Nike owned the mark and
no, I didn't think that
for all those years.
I didn't buy that. I just thought they'd never go back to it because my thought process was if they go back to it, everybody's gonna be like, well, now you can never go back to anything else. This is the look you have to keep, and I didn't think they want to paint themselves in that corner, which is exactly what they've done.
People would be okay with the state script though if they mixed it in with the interlocking MSU, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
or has that not been as well received as one would hope?
Like you give the interlocking to football, and then you put state script on basketball, and you're like your big. You can put it on the middle of the field and stuff, I guess, but that's the helmet everybody wants, though, and that's the jersey everybody wants.
It looks really good.